Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here with you on this Tuesday edition of Sidelines. Next 2 hours, a lot to talk about today. All kind of stuff out there in the chatosphere. We're going to have Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, on with us. Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal over in Savannah, talking with him. Also, Matt Dean checks in over in Memphis, Rhodes College, one of the AD coaches, part of that great team we have on Thursdays. And we're gonna cover a lot. Also gonna have Jimmy Ott on with us, top of hour number 2 from down in Baton Rouge, ESPN 104.5, Bet Rivers podcast. Jimmy is he's a Swiss Army knife guest. I love him. Not only does he cover LSU like nobody, him, Frank Duffy together would be a classic. But he also knows the horses, baseball. Man, he is on top of it. ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge has one of the best jobs of anybody in sports talk, radio, TV, whatever. Gets to eat at a different restaurant in Baton Rouge or Natchez or on site in New Orleans or whatever every day. So, hey, we're here for the next 2 hours. We do it 6 days a week, 50 hours plus content a month. Sidelines, want to thank all of our listeners and our sponsors, especially Ann Camp. Lee is opening up right now. They opened up yesterday, rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis. They opened up yesterday, and we went and toured the facility last week. Audrey and I did. It is spectacular. 24 weight benches and 24 punching bags. And these hang from the ceiling. They're not just the old canvas Everlast bag that you see in the Rocky movie with Burgess Meredith out there hollering at you and, saying, "Come on, you bum. You got to get it. Come on, Rocky. You got to do it." Rumble Boxing Gym. These are state-of-the-art punching bags. You hit them, you're not gonna tear yourself up. People are saying it's the best workout that they've ever had. I've just been chatting with Ann this morning, and it's just really, really cool. Buy one, get one. Great discounts on memberships. But people, again, packing in those classes. They're going to have a band out there Saturday, Union and McLean in Midtown Memphis, open house party with food truck, giveaways, a jazz band, and a DJ from 12 to 3 this Saturday, which will be April 22nd. Rumble Boxing Gym. And we're going over there. Matt Dean and I are going over there Thursday night to do the workout, the influencers workout. And we're going to be put to the test. Come on, Rocky. Come on, Matt. You bum. Come on, you got to hit him. I love Burgess Meredith and Rocky. Could you imagine him as your coach? He was a trainer, or was he a cut man like the legendary Ferdy Pacheco, who was every fight that was ever fought? But rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis. Matt Dean, the coach, he's going to be ready. I'm going to be ready. We're going to be there. So hopefully you're going to get over there, sign up. You want to get a serious workout, you've got to go to Rumble Boxing Gym. Matt, spring practice is underway. There are, people are, and I'm seeing some of this chat on the Textosphere this morning. Alabama, they don't know who their quarterback's going to be. Jalen Milroe, it's going to be Ty Simpson. These are Milroe's a kid out of Texas, Simpson from Martin, Tennessee. His dad's the coach up there. I remember in 2016, Jalen Hurts came in January, came in early and started in 2016. In 17, he was the starter till the championship game when Tua took over in the second half. In 18, it was Tua, but he came in at the end of the year in the SEC championship game and got him to the national title game against Clemson. And then 2019, it was Tua again. 2020, it's Mac Jones. 21, 22, it's Bryce Young. As a coach, do you like dangling that out there? Keeps everybody motivated. Nobody gets too comfortable.
Good morning, Rob. And I just think, it's all about success. And if you look at any position level in their program, they can draw an arrow to the NFL, right? How about Jalen Hurts yesterday signed a $255 million 5-year deal to Philadelphia Eagles? I think $175 million guaranteed. And he was the guy that was replaced by Tua in the second half of the national championship game, right? If I'm not mistaken, and then came back, helped him later on, and then went to Oklahoma and has had a great career in the NFL. So, the best thing, the best friend for a quarterback is a great offensive line. Bama never disappoints in that regard. They're going to have tremendous skill around whatever their quarterback decision would be. I'm just looking forward to seeing how it plays out because, regardless of that, Rob, that's the one position that takes a little bit of time. And when you look at preseason hype across the country, we kind of gravitate to those teams that have an experienced veteran coming back at the quarterback position. So they don't have that. So it's going to take a little bit of time, and you got to figure they're going to stub their toe along the way too.
Yeah, and Matt, in coaching, people don't realize most of the coaching is done in the off season. Preparing. It doesn't matter what your team is. You're constantly studying, and the shelf life of an offense or a defense that a coordinator brings is about 3 years. And if you don't do a lot of self-scouting and have other people look at you, you can really get stale in a hurry.
Oh, you can. It's what have you done for me lately, right? A great example is Jalen Hurts. Most teams in America would have won him underneath their center or snap. And in the biggest game of the season, they go to their number 2. But that was also probably a gut feeling by Saban that he had seen enough of Tua that he knew if we got to this roadblock, I got a pretty good plan B, right? And then you look at all the things that have happened recently with quarterbacks in the transfer portal. You look at South Carolina getting Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma. You look at my son's team, Oregon, getting Bo Nix from your Auburn Tigers. And what's crazy is when Bo left Auburn, because of some injuries and the season success wasn't what you wanted, people are like, whatever. Now, he's listed not only as a top 5 quarterback returning in the country, he'll probably have some Heisman consideration if the team does well, and he'll probably want to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks taken in the NFL draft next year. So coaching matters too. If the thing I look about it, you probably didn't think, Rob, nor did I, when we were watching Jalen Hurts play for Alabama, that he'd sign a $255 million contract one day, an extension with any pro team. Forget who it was. No. And you get to the next level, you get with the right person and the right offense and the right head coach, and it just clicks. It's like that, I think, with Bo Nix. Dan Lanning and Bo Nix, Dan's a defensive guy, but he knows what he's got in Bo Nix. They have a special relationship. And to some degrees, Bo Nix is also the offensive coordinator right now. They brought in a new guy, Will Stein, because Kenny Dillingham left to take the head job at Arizona State. But it's just incredible. We were talking this 2 weeks ago, Rob, we're entrenched in March Madness. Mm-hmm. And now you asked me today about spring practice. It has started, my friend. And it's just going to gain momentum until we get to the summer. And then we'll be talking about preseason rankings, media days, non-conference games, first big conference matchup. The cycle, college football has turned into pro sports in this regard. This is where I give NFL all the credit. When the Super Bowl's over, what are we talking about? We're talking about free agency, right? Yep. Then when free agency gets stale, what are we talking about? The combine. And then we're talking about the draft. And then we're talking about OTAs. Then we're talking about, summer camps. In college football now, there's a 2-week window right now, the last portal window, right? So these people really, at the college level, have turned into like a pro factory philosophy because they never stop. It's like open free agency all the time, Rob.
Yeah, and it is in college. It's always been that way with me before the portal. And going back to Jalen Hurts, have a lot of friends that cover Alabama and very closely. And I remember back when they signed Tua, they told me that Burton Burns, who was then the Alabama running back coach, had to really convince Nick Saban, he and Lane Kiffin, a kid out of Channelview, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, Jalen Hurts. Yeah. And he was known as great athlete, but I think he was a competitive weightlifter. I do know that he's one of the strongest quarterbacks around, but
lower body wise, you got to see him on a squat rack. You're 100% correct.
Yeah. And you look at him, I think more than anything, the way he handled himself when he lost the job in 2018, he didn't sit over there and have a pout face. He was still part of that team. And when they needed him, he came in there. And I felt like, you know what, I hated it for Alabama, but then again, he went to Oklahoma. I think if you ask people that follow Alabama closely, the quarterback that probably had the most influence on him, quarterback coach, offensive mind, Dan Enos or Lincoln Riley. Probably Dan Enos is very influential, as is Lincoln Riley. And now Dan Enos is back at Arkansas to work with KJ Jefferson. So that'll be fun. But I'm not surprised with Tua. That guy is an absolute winner, and he makes everybody around him better.
You know, Rob, one of the things that they were talking today before I joined you, I was watching a little bit on some other shows. The incredible presence he is in the locker room and what a leader he is too. And you can't put a dollar value on that. And, you look at all the career of Tom Brady, what Tom Brady did in that locker room. Also, he was willing to restructure his contract to help get, another football player that would help that football team continue to win. I see Jalen following that same path. I mean, they were in the Super Bowl last year. Most people had predicted them to win the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs had an incredible game. Obviously, it was a great Super Bowl. Really, you can't say anything about it. But no, Rob, you're exactly right. And the impact, that path to get there, one of the things that sticks out with me, you said it, how he handled the personal adversity of being taken out in the national spotlight and put on the bench and another man having success over him. He was one of the first guys to go out there and congratulate Tua when he threw the game-winning touchdown pass. Yeah. And Rob, if I'm a GM, that matters to me. That matters to me. And then how he went to Oklahoma, and I believe he got them. Weren't they in the college football playoff that year with him, Rob? It's kind of I'm not sure, but they had success. And God, I root for that type of guy. I've never met Jalen Hurts. I've seen him do interviews numerous times. I've always left thinking, man, what an incredible young man. And I've seen some stories. I think his dad was a football coach, a mentor, and just really, really great leader. And you know what? I'm happy to see him get that type of contract. And, Well,
I am too. And I think for the NFL, he had, 750, maybe close to 800 yards rushing last year.
Yeah.
He doesn't have just ridiculous stats. He just finds excuses to win for his team. And if they were to bring in another quarterback, that would just make him better. He's one of those people that thrives on competition. Matt, watching the NBA playoffs last night, my son Max came over to the house last night and watched Sacramento and Golden State. I just got to ask you this. Draymond Green has always liked to draw attention to himself. He's like a wrestler, that's the bad guy. But when he stomped on the guy for Sacramento from Lithuania, what is his name?
Sabonis is his last name.
Sabonis, yeah. Sabonis.
Sabonis. I'm not sure his first name yet.
Well, when he stomped on it, was it really? I mean, what did you? And then he just gets the crowd all riled up, and he's always been like that. But what is a coach? What do you think he was up to?
So he's the type of guy, and we've all had him before. You love him on your team, you can't stand playing against him, right?
Yes.
Yes. I was watching some slow motion replays today, Rob. Come on, he was telling people after the game, my foot had to land somewhere. Come on, man. He basically picked it up and just stomped on his chest.
Yeah.
At that point, it was a 91-87 game, I believe. Sabonis actually got a technical foul for grabbing his foot initially, but then I think Draymond got ejected after they played for an F2, whatever it was, F1. I'm just telling you, and I told this to people at lunch yesterday, and no one believed me because they don't. I've been watching Sacramento. Why have I watched Sacramento, Rob? They have a young man that starts from my name of Keegan Murray, played at the University of Iowa. So I have a little bit of an Iowa interest in the Sacramento Kings, Sacktown. Right?
Hawkeye angle. I love it.
Hawkeye angle. And Keegan's had he set a record for them for number of threes in a rookie season. Now, he hasn't done much in the playoffs, but I've watched them. You're talking De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Harrison Barnes, Sabonis. They got a really nice roster. They can score the ball. Trey Lyles comes off the bench for them, former Kentucky star. Monk comes off the bench from them. I mean, they got a guy named Alex Len, 7'2" center backup post who played at Maryland. They got pieces, Rob. And I'm going to tell you, the Warriors are not a great road team, and Sacktown has the advantage here of home court advantage. So the Warriors got to win the next two and come back and find a way to get one of the final three plus a home game. I would not want to play Sacramento in the playoffs right now. They have energy, they're talented, and they score the ball. And you know what? They're competent defensively. Not great, but they're competent.
Yeah, and look, we're going to take a break, but my son Max is, and both him and Wilson both are NBA junkies. They're Auburn fans. They're NBA junkies because of the Grizzlies. And Max pointed out Sacramento's like one of the youngest teams in the NBA.
He's right.
And they've got a 2-0 start. We're going to talk more with Matt Dean, Rob Browne, right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Matt, when you watch the NBA, if you go to a lot of games, and you and I have been to a lot of Grizzlies games over the years, they really get cranking in the fourth quarter. And I was just, how long has Stephen Curry been in the NBA? It was the 2009-2010 season was his rookie year, and he's been with Golden State his entire career. That's very rare that happens. But you notice he was over there talking to the refs after the Draymond Green incident and all. But I remember when Golden State has played the Grizzlies, and you'll see Tom Izzo always kind of where I sit at the games, and he's not that far. He's near courtside. He follows his players around the country. I can't imagine him acting like that when he played for Tom Izzo. I mean,
no, but I will tell you this: Draymond is a very thoughtful, and really, honestly, a glue person for that organization. You can go back to, I think the NBA has a rule, Rob. Every time you get your 16th technical foul, you have to sit the next game, right? If you remember the championship that the Cavs and LeBron won in 7 games over the Warriors.
Yeah.
It was 3-1 Golden State, and in that game, Draymond got a technical foul, which meant he sat out the next game. And then game 5 in Golden State, The Cavs won, came back to Cleveland, took it to 7. You know the rest. But the reality is people thought the Cavs were dead in the water. The Warriors were playing tremendous. And a lot of people believe if Draymond's in the floor in Game 5, it goes 5 and it's over. I guess my point is they've won 4 rings with their main core. Steph Curry, who's done loyal things for that organization. He's obviously gotten paid, but he's obviously done some restructuring. Klay Thompson, one of the best shooters. A lot of people don't realize his father, Michael Thompson, was a great college player at Minnesota, a former Los Angeles Laker, okay? And Draymond Green, honestly, he's just that guy that you need on successful teams. He's a different version of when my Bulls had Dennis Rodman back in the 90s. I'm telling you, there's not much difference because neither guy was really an offensive factor. Matter of fact, Rodman was 0 off. Dennis Rodman had games of 0 points and 20-some rebounds, right? Yeah. Well, Draymond may hit you a shot, may make you a couple buckets, but he's a great passer. He's a great transition defender. He's smart. He knows everything. So you can see from an IQ standpoint why Izzo loves him. And I think Izzo probably takes more of a liking and following to Draymond because he wants to make sure some of those post games like, hey, man, what you doing? I don't know this, but I just think, Tom loves his toughness. Obviously, the Warriors love his toughness, but his act has kind of run a little thin to some people in the league. Because when you do what you did last night, I mean, it's one thing to get in a verbal altercation with another player, but to take your big size 15 sneaker and stop on his chest, I just don't like that.
Yeah, but Bill Laimbeer was like that with the Pistons. Yeah. He was a Notre Dame grad. Look, it's a lot basketball until you go to an NBA game in person, then you really can see it. But you see it on TV. It's a physical football-like game. Those guys are
huge men, right? Just huge men.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You're not out there with just a bunch of snowflakes. I mean, it is a physical, violent. And last night just watching Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaquille O'Neal talking about it. I mean, they're just they played in the NBA, and you can tell they don't like it. But
let me tell you something, Rob. If he did that to Barkley would get up and whoop him. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I remember Charles Barkley when he was a player. You do obviously too.
Yeah.
Barkley wouldn't go put up with stuff like that. Neither would Shaq.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. And Sabonis being from Lithuania, the capital of Lithuania is Vilnius. Those one of the 3 breakaway republics: Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. But he's a hell of a player too. But God, that's a young roster. And if they can keep them together, and they haven't been to the playoffs, only a 22-year-old like my son Max would say this, that the last time they were in the playoffs, speaking of Sacramento, the smartphone had not yet come to the market. Only a 22-year-old would say that.
Max is right. I'm guessing it was around 2006. I'd have to check with Max. But, when you look at Domantas Sabonis, Rob, I just looked this up. He's 7 feet tall. It doesn't look it. 240, so he's lean for that size, 26 years old. He's probably one of their oldest players besides Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes is 30. Keegan Murray is 21, I think, maybe 22. De'Aaron Fox, you remember him back in the SEC days at Kentucky, 25. Even another shooter they got from Maryland, Kevin Huerter, he's 24, and he's a 6'7" shooter. Trey Lyles is 27, another old guy in their roster. And a guy I love off the bench, Malik Monk, is 25, and he is just instant offense. Last night, I don't know how much you watched of it, Rob, but they were kind of struggling first quarter offensively. Malik came in, I think his first 3 buckets were like threes. And the next thing you know, they go from down 23-17 to up 40-31. And from that point on, they kind of controlled the game narrative-wise in terms of staying up front.
Yeah. And one of my favorite announcers, Ian Eagle, was on there
last
night.
Love him, man.
That's a great name. And hey, Ben Troupe is on here with us right now, ESPN Coastal down in Savannah, uncommon and unfinished. And we're talking about Draymond Green last night. And, I just, there's something about him. Matt, you hit on it. And Ben, sometimes there's guys that people think are bad guys, but if you're a teammate of Draymond Green and it gets tough out there, that's who you want in your corner. You don't want some softer fellow out there. You want tough people around you, but it's not a good look. But you want warriors. I mean, you mentioned Dennis Rodman. God, how much fun was it watching that guy play? I mean, we talked about this with tennis yesterday. We don't have John McEnroe or Jimmy Connors anymore or Bjorn Borg, but we have these kind of robotic-like tennis players in America that win. But with John McEnroe, you can't be serious. I can't believe that. I mean, that made tennis exciting. Draymond Green has got that WWE Ric Flair to him. I mean, Ben, is that good? Would you want him as a teammate? What are your thoughts? Because as a professional, he probably has to pay a fine when he does something like that. That's real money.
Yeah, if it's him. I mean, that's who Draymond Green is. It's authentic. I mean, coming from Saginaw, Michigan, Michigan State, second-round pick.
Yeah.
The thing about it, David Lee was an all-star and got hurt, and that's how he ended up with the Knicks. Draymond Green gets inserted in. That was the last of David Lee. But I would say this about Draymond. Draymond is going to be celebrated as long as the team is winning. If they losing and he doing it, it's different because Mr. Dean, you know this. They get rid of players for the same reason why they get rid of coaches. The same reason why they hire a coach will be why they fire him if he's not winning. If he's doing what he's doing and they're winning, great. Because Steve Kerr, he's gotten used to Draymond. Draymond is not there for his offensive problems. He's not there to score points. He's there to be a mentality. But when you are doing the antics and we're losing, now you're a distraction. So I love Draymond. I do think he is synonymous with that Golden State legacy that they have right now. But the thing about Dennis Rodman, in the midst of all his antics, he's still leading the league in the rebound. Yeah. He still got the most rebounds every game. When he scored and he used to run down the court, coming to the crowd, he still did his in the midst of the antics with Karl Malone and whoever they put him on. I'm still doing my job though. Yeah. So it's not like Draymond at the end of the game, you ain't looking at the stat sheet because he's not in the box score. So let me get this straight. 2 or 3 points, a couple of rebounds, got ejected. And we lost, which means you might be out for the next game. That's the part that I think Draymond Green has to understand. The significance of your presence on the court is far greater than the antics. I love Draymond. I love Draymond created a position for himself without having a real role as far as he affects the game, not just in the stat sheet, but when you say things like, oh, so what about grabbing my leg? Come on, man, you stomped on the dude. Like, if that's Steph Curry getting stomped on, how is Draymond Green looking? You can't. So I love Draymond, but the thing is, Steve Kerr tolerates Draymond. I don't think he celebrates him because he has to. They tied to the hip. But when the game is, listen, shout out to the Sacramento Kings, by the way, man. That is a franchise that had to have dealt with a lot. The outside of being the capital of California, it wasn't really much else to talk about with the Kings. But I heard you guys talk about Monk and them. The most dangerous team is a team that nobody thinks is going to do much, and they're young. Watch out for them Kings, man. I know everybody want to make it about Giannis and Ja Morant and these guys getting hurt. Hey, man, sorry. I got to worry about the players on the court because right now, last time I checked, this Golden State Warrior team, they're not good at coming back from a deficit. You down 0-2, hey, man, Steph might get to go on vacation early this year.
Well, bottom line, you're right about it. It's just interesting that he doesn't really celebrate him. He tolerates him. But you better have tough people on your team. And you probably know this. And, Matt, I bet Ben knows this. As a tight end, you weren't going to have the stats some of the other guys were. But if you weren't out there driving on those edges and those blocks, taking on the edge rusher, nothing else is going to happen. You look at some of the greatest matchups in football games. If you've got some badass outside linebacker, I'll tell you, Florida had one named Wilbur Marshall that was from Astronaut High School in Titusville, Florida. And I remember Wilbur playing against Auburn in '83. Ed West, Auburn tight end, Leeton, Alabama, Colbert County High School, played forever with the Packers. And he went in the '83 game, and there were 54 players off those two rosters, Ben and Matt, from Auburn and Florida that went to the NFL. 28 from Florida, 26 from Auburn. And I just always remember the tight end ever since then. It was ingrained in me, driving and taking on that edge rusher. Without that tight end doing that, that whole side of the field is a nightmare. And that's like studying for your final exam every week. I mean, the tight end is so underrated. It's the unsung hero position. And occasionally you get a Rob Gronkowski with the stats, but your real stat is how many drives you had and how many quarterback hurries and quarterback pressures you didn't let happen. Is that correct? Because I'm not a tight end. I'm not 6'3", 245 pounds of solid steel like you are.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The best attribute you can have as a player is when you didn't show up on the stat sheet, but they won because of you. We usually hear we need to win because of you, not in spite of you. Meaning, if you're not gonna help us win, don't be the reason why we lose. And the thing about our coaches was they engraved in our mind. They said, "Ben, you want to have fun? Yeah, do the things you don't like. Football is fun when you do the things you don't like. When you embrace, because it's not what we say about you; it's what the running backs say about you. It's what the quarterbacks say about you. It's what them old linemen say about you when they saying, hey, man, I want Troupe in the game. Not, oh, God, he's in the game. So, listen, and I love him. I love him. Jimmy Graham is the best example. Jimmy Graham come out of Miami, great tight end. How many times do they run the ball at his side? Every time Jimmy Graham comes in, they think, one, they're going to throw it or they're going to run away from him. That makes the offense very – I love Jimmy Graham, that great tight end legacy down there in Miami. But I don't want to have flaws. I want to come in the game and the defense like, oh, are they going to run it? Are they going to leave him in the pass block? Or are they going to get out in the – because that's why – listen, Rob Gronkowski is the Michael Jordan of tight ends. He took tight end to a level that I think Travis Kelce got a chance to be the GOAT. I think Travis got a shot with what he's doing. They call it the year of Gronk. He is a one-name superstar amongst quarterbacks and these basketball players. So yeah, the tight end position nowadays, when I first became a tight end, I didn't even know what the hell it was. I had got real tall, real fast, to go down there and play tight end. I'm like, what? I didn't know. I know what a receiver was, running back was, but it's one of the funnest positions to play because thank God for Trey Burton, the Philly special. He went to the University of Florida. They let him throw it to Nick Foles. So they let tight ends do everything but throw the football. But now, you know, we do the grunt work, man. It has become a position that is so pivotal because you ask to do it all, and they running offenses through tight ends.
Yeah,
San Francisco running through George Kittle, Kansas City running through, Travis Kelce. I mean, I know Darren Waller. They used to run it through him with my Raiders. Now he's out there with the New York Football Giants. But hey, man, listen, if you're 230 pounds and you're a tweener, go eat you a couple of more carbs. Get up to about 245. Learn to put your hand in the dirt and understand. The best tight ends don't come off the field. Whether you're giving up 40 pounds to a defensive end, the best tight end in the NFL all around is George Kittle. Watch him block. Watch George Kittle block people, and he has more fun blocking than catching the football because I didn't realize the better I block, the easier I get out there in the passing game because them defensive ends, they ain't finna chip me no more because they got like my coach said, Ben, do you like to fight? I said, well, he said, blocking is a fight. You disrespectful. You getting up in somebody's face, and you saying it's you and me. And every time he makes a tackle, he beats you. And when you look at it like that, he's saying, could you stand in front of your dad knowing that another man just took your lunch money? We gave you 30 times. So to me, I wasn't the best blocker, but I can fight. I can fight a little bit, in that regard. So yeah, football is in basketball. So to all those Draymond Greens and LeBron Jameses, they could have played tight end. No, they couldn't. Yeah. They could have, but they ain't gonna be where they were in the NBA. So please stop with LeBron is as athletic as it get. 6'8", 250 come across the middle. That's the biggest target you gonna see. them linebackers and safeties go, hey dude, you ain't gonna have no knees because we can take you out. So LeBron, 20 years in the NBA, he wouldn't have made a 10 in the NFL, man. Not because he's not good enough, but football is about survival. It ain't about thriving. You got to survive first, then you get to thrive a little bit if God gives you some great health and some longevity.
Yeah. I mean, and like you say, Matt, he always talks about it's a collision league, Matt, and about to go to a break, but I think it's so fun to have somebody who's played that position break it down. I always like to say this: if you bring in a group of accountants from whatever firm and you have a business and you want to find out how to make it better, take it apart, lay it out on the table, and then you understand what needs to go, what needs to stay. But these comparisons with, Gronkowski, what he did, he elevated the position, and then Travis Kelce. But you mentioned the player again that you think is the best tight end. One more time.
The best all-around tight end in the National Football League is George Kittle, the tight end for San Francisco 49ers. He is just watch. Listen, if you never seen him catch a pass, watch him block people. Just watch it. It's crazy.
Hold those thoughts. We're going to be right back. I love this. Ben Troupe, Matt Dean, Rob Browne.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Look what I went and got. How good are these things?
The greatest. They are the greatest. They are the greatest.
There's a well-known football coach in the Southeastern Conference who eats 2 of those before every game, but we're not going to give him any more publicity because. But we went to the Friendly Market there in Park in Arkansas near the farm, and the Little Debbie guy, when he comes in, is a rock star. I mean, people want his autograph. What are those things we got? The fudge rounds, Little Debbie's. Yeah. I like the Nutty Buddies. Nutty Buddies.
Nutty Buddies are so underrated. People need to stop playing with the Nutty Buddies, man.
Yeah, I mean, Nutty Buddy. I'd love to have Little Debbie as a sponsor of Sidelines. But Matt, you know what Ben was talking about? Who's the best all-around tight end in the NFL? Jump in on this one. I love this conversation. Because these guys don't get hardly any coverage in the national media.
Listen, Ben's played the position really well at the highest level. And he touched, George Kittle's my guy, Ben, because I grew up from Iowa, state of Iowa. So I can name you some tight ends. They may not quite be George Kittle, but Noah Fant was very good. He plays for the Seahawks right now, I believe, was with the Broncos. TJ Hawkinson.
Dallas Clark started.
And there's a guy, I'm going to give you a name, that's probably going to be a second-day draft pick from Iowa right now, named Sam Laporta. Remember that name, Ben? He's a guy that can catch it, and he's not afraid to block. And one of the things that's interesting about Iowa, and I'm always up here, we don't have this skill that the SEC teams do, but Kirk Ferentz, the head coach, used to be with the Cleveland Browns. And he's an old O-line guy that really loves the position. So all of Iowa's tight ends, if you watch them, like Ben said, they block first. I mean, Iowa's known for really their offensive line and running the football, and the tight ends an extension of that. And George Kittle is fun because in college, he was a little thinner, Ben, and got hurt a lot. And he's probably put on 10, 15 pounds since he's got to the league. I'm guessing he's probably 6'4", 245-ish, kind of like I'm guessing that's where he's at right now, but he's not afraid to mix it up. With your analogy, he's ready to fight every possession.
George is the greatest thing. George Kittle and Travis Kelce and Greg Olsen did. They started tight end in Nashville, Tennessee. That's right. That's the one thing that I'm really, really proud of those guys is you know, when you see these tight ends that's sharing the knowledge, like when I see Travis Kelce, when Kyle Pitts first get drafted, and he's sharing the knowledge, and people go, well, why would you do that? Well, you know how confident I got to be in my skill set, in my position to be able to share the knowledge. Because Travis Kelce is telling Kyle Pitts, if you the next great one, I want to help you.
That's right.
It's something to say that if I had a bad game, good game, then you're going to call your parents and your family members. But I get to call another guy at my position and say, hey, man, could you tell me how I can do this better? Because that's, to me, what players don't have. That we talk about the brotherhood and camaraderie and all these things. Well, how do you put that into focus? And the thing about George Kittle enjoys the game. When I watch him play, this guy enjoys playing football. Now, Dallas Clark to me is one of the greatest because I had to play against Dallas Clark when he was with the Rhodes. Dallas Clark is the Mr. No Gloves, right? I'm catching a pass from Peyton Manning with no gloves on, and sometimes I had to play up there in the frigid cold of New England. But Dallas Clark and T.J. Hockenson and Noah Fant and George Kittle. So tight end used to reside. It used to reside in Miami. I don't know now. Iowa, listen, man.
We're coming, man.
I know them boys ain't got a lot going on in Iowa. They play some big time football. And I just like what the tight end position is becoming, because it's becoming not just a couple of guys. You got a lot of guys. Darren Waller, man. I mean,
I love Darren Waller.
When you talk about 6'6", and his story is one to overcome, because I know he had this thing with like alcohol addiction and different things. So he become like a spokesman for that. But we always get into who's the greatest. The greatest tight end in my era that I ever seen, I'm a Shannon Sharp dude for life, man. We both from rural Georgia. Savannah State, love Shannon Sharp. I love Kellen Winslow Sr. I mean, I like Kellen. I mean, I came out with Kellen Winslow Jr., but the greatest is always going to be Gronk, because greatest and best, I think, are different. Greatest means we won chips. But the best tight end to ever grace of football is Tony Gonzalez. I don't care. He's the best, man. He's not the greatest, but he's the best. I think he's third all time in catches. But now they got this kid named Travis Kelce who might surpass him. Kansas City, I don't know what they got going on, but they got a knack for picking like incredible tight ends.
And Ben, on Tony Gonzalez, he's a little bit of a freak too, because he was a hell of a college basketball player at Cal. I believe, did he play with Jason Kidd in college basketball? I'm not sure, but I thought they did.
He did play with Jason Kidd, yes.
Okay, just tremendous. I think they were in the Sweet 16 together. I'm dating myself here, but man, I don't have an argument at all with what Ben said, man. That's right on.
Love the tight end position. At the end of the day, Rob, look, I get into all this greatest and best all the time. Antonio Gates never played tight end in college. He has the most receiving touchdowns and tight end and hit the NFL history for a tight end. He had Phillip Rivers and LaDainian. The tight end position is just evolving, because it used to be you had to be a couple of hamburgers away from being an offensive tackle. Now, no, you got to be 250, 260, because you got U tight ends, you got Y tight ends, you got guys going from 245 to about 270, but at the end of the day, they need you to be a renaissance man. The jack of many trades, a master of none. You got to get it done every single time. And now, them boys getting the money like wide receivers, man. I got out the NFL too early, man.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm going to throw this one out. In the past, you go back 20 years ago, someone like an Anthony Richardson, who's 6'4", Cam Newton, 6'5", and 240 and 250, KJ Jefferson at Arkansas, 6'4", I think they would have been a tight end or an edge rusher. You know, when Phillip Rivers was being evaluated by the coaches at Auburn and Alabama, he played for his father in Athens, Alabama, where Todd Foray lives now, up near Huntsville, and they thought he was a tight end or a linebacker. Of course, remember, Joe Paterno thought Jim Kelly was a better linebacker than quarterback, and his freshman year, 1979, Jim Kelly went to Happy Valley, and they beat Penn State, I think 27-14. And I go back to thinking about some of these other guys that I know. Cam Newton, when he came to Auburn's football camp, they didn't think he was a quarterback. He goes to Florida, and he is a quarterback, and then he transfers and he has a hell of a career. Do you agree with that? I mean, you're starting to see the guys that are that big now are quarterbacks or tight ends, and the tight end is the best offensive lineman athlete that you have, bar none. It's not even close.
I think you got rare species of people. And when you talk about Cam Newton he's rare. You know, Anthony Rich, we have to call it what it is. Like blind taste test, yeah, they all 6'4", 6'5", but then when you put the ball in their hand, certain guys have gifts. All of us are talented, right? Everybody's talented, right? Everybody's talented. But LeBron James is gifted.
Yeah.
And when you put the gift out there with the talent, the gift will show itself. Every single Cam Newton was gifted. Anthony Richardson is gifted. Look, Steve Young was gifted. Steve Young said, "Hey man, if you going from Joe Montana to me, I better be able to run with this thing because I can't just throw the football." Joe Montana one of the greatest throwers of the football we ever seen. So I think the thing is, they always say, "How can I get the best out of you?" And then you start talking about position. So I want Cam Newton to touch the ball every play. That means he's getting that many opportunities. I want Lamar Jackson to touch the ball every play. With me, like my coach say, he goes, "Ben, listen, when you go out there and you run a route, that's the University of Florida, that's the Tennessee Titans, that's the Tampa Bay Bucks, that's the Oakland Raiders. When you catch the ball, that's us. When you get the ball in your hands, that's you." See, it becomes you once the ball gets in your hands. That's when you get to show your gifts. But until then, you showing you're playing within the confines of these offenses. But Cam Newton, people always talk about who is a Hall of Famer when it comes to sports. I believe a Hall of Famer is very simple. Can you talk about the position without talking about this person? Cam Newton's a Hall of Famer. You cannot talk about the quarterback position and what he means. I think Michael Vick, have we ever seen anything like that? And mind you, he wasn't a pocket passer, but Atlanta ain't been much to talk about since he left, and they've had, Matt Ryan. So I do think you got rare guys that when you see them, like people say, why did you let a young man go to an SEC, ACC football camp? I want you to see how I remember when big quarterbacks was 6'2". They 6'4", 6'5", 240. Yep. And the reason why does the quarterback need to be that big? Because you got to stand there in the pocket and get hit by a 300-pounder. Your body has to be built to take. I love Doug Flutie, but he's very rare. When's the last time a guy that's 6 feet, 200 survived in the NFL? They won't make it. Not because they're not good enough, but his body is built to not take punishment. So the Kyler Murrays and the Baker Mayfields, they ain't built to survive in the NFL. So I mean, those rare athletes though at the quarterback, Josh Allen is a rare athlete at Buffalo. That dude is rare. Pat Mahomes can throw the football. Yeah. So I do think when you start talking about why these guys are getting bigger, because they call 200 pounds, that's that cute weight. He looked nice with his shirt off. He ain't gonna make it though, because he got to take a pounding. He got to take so 230, 245. That's becoming the norm. And people say that Lamar Jackson ain't that big, but he's a rare athlete though. He don't take big hits. That's the only reason why. And Baltimore, y'all need to find a way to pay him, because if y'all don't pay him, you signed Odell Beckham Jr. for nothing. Just saying. Yeah.
Matt.
Well, I got a question for Ben, because he's our NFL guy. Ben, let's say you're the GM, you got the number one pick. Are you taking Bryce Young, CJ Stroud? Do you think about your guy from Florida? Who if you need a quarterback at number one, which obviously Carolina does, they trade with the Bears to move up. Who are you taking?
Well, obviously I'm biased when it comes to Anthony Richardson.
Sure.
Even though I know he's going to be a project, I'll say CJ Stroud, and the reason why is this. The thing about a guy like CJ Stroud is, right, people are always talking about, oh, he's coming from Ohio State. So you're going to blame him for coming from a great system? I'm not going to blame him. And the same way we had Marvin Harrison Jr. No, they had him. They had him delivering the football. And I want a guy that I've seen it done at the highest level and consistently and effectively. The thing about Anthony Richardson, while he's super duper athletic, you're not the most athletic guy on the field anymore. You're not the most gifted guy on the field anymore. The thing about the National Football League is, can you adjust when we figure you out? We're going to figure you out. Yeah. So the thing about CJ Stroud is, I just think he's a guy that's built to be in the pocket. He has enough athletic ability to make plays outside of the pocket. He's coming from a place like Ohio State to where it ain't like the lights are going to not be as bright. He's going from Columbus to Charlotte? I think he'll be okay in Charlotte. But I also know I'm thinking about longevity. And the thing about quarterbacks that's super athletic, they put themselves at risk because you're going to get hit a lot. And Anthony Richardson didn't make it all the games in college. So I love Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young. Bryce Young is not that much bigger than Stetson Bennett. Only difference is he won the highest when he went to Alabama. He's not that big.
That's right.
I'm afraid of guys who have immense talent, but they're not that big because it's not a matter of if, but when. When you get hit, can you get up?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Because now I need you for 17 games. Now, I'll go with C.J. Stroud only because I think that he's, out of the three projects, I don't think his is as intense as Bryce and Anthony Richardson. So give me the guy in C.J. Stroud. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to see him in the NFC South, and that's where my Falcons play. We don't have a quarterback, and we don't want a quarterback because we don't care about winning anymore. So,
Rob, I'm going to say last thing to Ben, and I got to take off. I apologize, but I agree with Ben. And let me give you an example why I think you're 100% correct. Go watch the tape on Ohio State, Georgia, in the national semifinal game. If they make a kick indoors, which they had made previously 2 drives prior, they not only win that game, they win the national championship because of C.J. Stroud played out of his mind in the biggest spotlight. Like you said, you play in Columbus, you can play in Charlotte.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Matt, thanks so much for being with us. We'll be back on with you Thursday for the AD angle, and really, I love that conversation. You're probably right. I mean, C.J. Stroud. I like how you break it down. It's not a matter of if, but when they get hit. And sure. You're talking about putting a lot of money into a quarterback, Ben. And that's what these general managers, player personnel directors have to do. We talk with Jim Nagy sometimes on this show, executive director of the Reese's Mobile Senior Bowl. And I'm going to try to get him on again before the draft. But the Senior Bowl, they do an incredible job of evaluating. And Jim has in his career, 18 years as an NFL, as a scout, administrator, executive, 6 Super Bowls appearances. He's got 4 rings, 1 with the Packers, 2 with the Patriots, and 1 with Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. And it's really interesting to listen to him evaluate. And hell yeah, character matters, honor. I love watching your Twitter activity. Truth builds relationships. Relationships build truth. And why does that matter? Well, do yourself a favor sometime. I don't know if you've ever heard, like if you hear the Boy Scout oath, it talks about, a Boy Scout is honorable, trustworthy, thrifty, brave, reverent, loyal. Well, the Ranger Creed, you got to be physically fit, mentally alert, and morally straight. You've got to trust people. And that's what they pay you for. Ben, as a professional athlete, that it is so rare when you break it down. 330 million people in this country. Each year, around 3,300 will sign Division I football scholarships. In your neighborhood that you grew up in, your little neighborhood in a little town of Swainsboro, Georgia, 4 of y'all played college football in the SEC. That's unicorn stuff, man. You know what I'm talking about? That's the crazy hot matrix, She's a 9 or a 10 and a 4 crazy. That's a unicorn. Find her, capture her, and put her in captivity. I mean, Ben, but I'm telling you, grab his book over there. I love your book, Uncommon Unfinished, because you talk about where you grew up and all the people that influenced you. And the bottom line is you have a lot of people. This is the book, folks. Uncommon and Unfinished, the Ben Troupe story. Yeah, it wasn't just you. It was your parents, your grandparents, and your friends. To make it to that level, it's so damn hard. And when you get there, every time I ever ask a player, if it's you, if it's Wesley Britt, who played 5 years in the NFL, whoever, Roman Harper, whatever, why'd you leave the league, whatever, they go, well, number one, you want to. Number 2, there's always someone, as soon as they sign you, they're going to sign someone else they think is better than you. That's you learned that in recruiting, and that mental edge that you've got to have every day. Why do you do all these little things? Because in the end, they're what matter. I mean, I love hearing that that mindset. Take a quick break. Right back. Ben Troupe, Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne and Ben Troupe back here. And Ben, your show, ESPN Coastal in Savannah, and we were watching the RBC PGA golf tournament over the weekend from Heritage Golf Course. And I've been to Hilton Head a few times, and I'll never forget one time I was over there. It was late June. It was 150 degrees, and we'd flown in, and I wanted to go for a run on the island, and I went for a run, and I couldn't remember the name of the place where we were staying. I just literally unpacked, and I was gone for about probably an hour and a half on my run. And I said, where are you staying, sir? I said, I'm staying at the Hilton. And he goes, son, Hilton owns half this island, which place? But I just remember on that golf course, and every putting green I saw, there was a big alligator there on every one of them. But I was thinking about, that area where you are, Savannah, is absolutely beautiful over there. What are y'all talking about this time of year? You're a Falcons fan. I've always been Cowboys and Falcons, because when William Andrews played for the Falcons, when I was a kid, I watched every game he played out of Thomasville, Georgia, played at Auburn. Pat Sullivan played there, went there for the father-son 6th grade trip. And when I was a kid, we went to a Falcons game. And every Falcons fan I know test the patience that only Job had. And that question, do y'all get it a lot on your show on ESPN Coastal? Why don't the Falcons draft more local players? Is it asked a lot?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially with the emergence of how well Georgia is like the creme de la creme now. So, Athens, because the thing about the Falcons is they practice in Flowery Branch. So they don't practice in Atlanta. They're closer to Athens out there in Flowery Branch, close, out there, Buford and all that. But you're right. I mean, when you think about, a guy like Jalen Carter, you talk about, Darnell Washington, the big tight end, out of Georgia. But because the thing is, it's like Keith Brooken. Keith Brooken grew up in Atlanta, went to Georgia Tech, got drafted by the Falcons, played his whole career, maybe like 1 or 2 with the Cowboys. Because nowadays, Rob, just like it's about selling tickets. Well, who's going to sell tickets quicker? A guy that you watch grow up in college right down the road. And I get it, because the thing about the state of Georgia, it is University of Georgia first. And you start talking about Georgia Tech. You start talking about Georgia Southern and Kennesaw State and Georgia State and Clark and Morehouse and Mercer. The list goes on and on. But keeping that, the thing about it is too, this is what Atlanta does though. People try to act when Michael Vick got drafted. Michael Vick is from Virginia. You wouldn't think that because they listen, man, when you get drafted by Atlanta and you become like a household name, people start making up stuff like, his dad's from Atlanta. His dad is. His mom is from Georgia. They're not, but it becomes Trae Young is nowhere near Atlanta. Yeah. But you start looking at what you mean. It's about what you mean to the city. So I remember when Justin Fields was coming out. He's from Kennesaw, Atlanta. Yeah. and they really, really wanted him, and they didn't get him. And it becomes now every time he does something significant, they say, okay, he could have been in Atlanta. He could have been in Atlanta. Now, a lot of Clemson guys, like they get like AJ Terrell, he from Clemson, and Grady Jarrett. So those boys are not too far. But, I just think about, Julio Jones, Alabama kid, went to Alabama.
Yeah.
When he got drafted, they traded a lot for him. And obviously it worked out really well. It didn't end well. But yeah, that local talent makes life. That's why when you hear a guy like Anthony Richardson being tied to a Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Because it's an hour and a half up the road, or things like that. So you're having that local talent definitely helps. It helps with marketing. You don't have to necessarily introduce them to the fan base. You got to tell them this is who we have. Now, like I said, but it be that top 10 though. When you picking in the top 10, that's when you're thinking more quarterback, O-lineman, exceptional interior D lineman, a pass rusher. And I think the thing about the Falcons, they've been in the top 10. I mean, they went AJ Terrell one year, Kyle Pitts the next year. You're talking about Drake London the next year. Now you don't have a quarterback. What do you do picking in the top 10 with all these big name quarterbacks coming out?
Yeah. Hey, let's head down to Baton Rouge. Bring on Jimmy Ott, ESPN 104.5. Man, covers LSU. Has one of the greatest jobs. His job every day. He gets to eat in one of the top restaurants in Baton Rouge, or he goes to casinos in Natchez. He goes to Del Mar in California for the horses, or Vegas. The world's most interesting man on the Dos Equis commercials. There's Frank Duffy, there's Franz Beard, and there's Jimmy Ott, whose father played on the 1958 LSU National Championship team with Buddy Sofaker. Great. I'm going to tell you what, when you're on here, Jimmy, I learn and I take a lot of notes, and we're ready. We've been talking some pro football, talking about this draft and all. And now you being a lifelong Falcons fan, the Saints did get the Super Bowl win, and they celebrated for about 3 years. But, Jimmy, how are you?
They're still celebrating, man. I mean, shoot, they thank God they got one, because there were a lot of close calls and some really tough playoff losses, along the way, where they could have easily won another one. Of course, the NOLA no call, as we call it, the non-interference call. They could have run down the clock, kicked a chip shot field goal, and go and play the Patriots. And the Patriots were less than impressive against the Rams. They still got it done, but they weren't going to throw a defensive game plan that completely threw off Goff and that young staff. That wouldn't have happened against Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Not saying that it would have won, but they would have had more of a chance to win than the Rams did. But anyway, we still just kind of simmering down here in Baton Rouge from the Lady Tigers. My God, they got some run. I mean, the NIL, the social media. Well, this is what it's all about. You got gymnast who's got the highest paid female athlete in college athletics, and now you got Angel Reese and Flo J. And man, I never dreamed women's basketball could get that type of run. But Rob, I'm old enough to remember the Bird versus Magic 79 final and the build up, and that how March Madness capitalized on that build up. And those two went on to obvious, legendary NBA careers. But this has a little something. Why in the hell aren't we scheduling Iowa and LSU next year in the regular season? Let's get that little. Let's continue on. That's one thing that the women's game has that the men's doesn't. The stars all come back. So build upon that name recognition. With your players. That's a good thing. Men's basketball, it's all about the coaches. Those are the recognizable feature. The figures. Guys are one and done. So, it's they had a parade. Malky, love her or hate her, she's gonna tell you how what's on her mind. They called a break. There wasn't a whole lot of confidence that they could beat South Carolina, but they called a break. And just like when a player gets hot, shoot the Carson, the little girl, the 3 games before, she scored 0, 0, and 0. Now, what the hell you see in the scouting report and what I'm seeing in the game? I mean, she was lighting it up in that game. And so, had everybody seen the Sunday game before against Miami, which was like a 48-42 game, excuse me, which was terrible. No, they didn't get that. They got the great performance, and it was a perfect storm to capitalize. Going on today's show, it's just been. I never dreamed that women's basketball, could capture that much of the spotlight. I know we're here locally, and we're sort of the villain. They wanted the girl Caitlin Clark, and she captured America by upsetting South Carolina, and she can play. I mean, first possession, boom, 30 feet. She's knocking it down. So I'll be honest. I'm kind of bandwagon, kind of followed a little late. It's not on my real radar, but I'm just blown away. This is historic, for the women's game. It really is.
I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. And you talked about it, Ben, when Kim Mulkey got hired. One of the things Jimmy said was, look at her track record. 3 national championships at Baylor. She's from Shreveport. Or Hammond.
She's from the Hammond area, a little town called Tickfaw. And look, my buddy who's been on the radio with me for 30 years, he played at Louisiana Tech when she played. And he said, I don't know what she's going to do, but she's going to be successful. Didn't know she was going to coach, but she was valedictorian of her high school class. She's smart. She's driven. She is going to work her tail off, and she's good. And she's going to do it. We didn't think it was going to happen in the second year, and it took some breaks, but they took advantage of the breaks, when they got it. But they're going to be way better next year. They're going to be better the following year. And as long as she's there, I think she's going to be LSU's next AD. I really do. And with, Scott Woodward, I think he wants to kind of move into that president's or chancellor's role. I think at some point she'll be LSU's next AD. And I'm fine. She can coach my defensive line, bro. I mean, she is a bad girl. I mean, she is tough as nails.
Ben, jump in here. I agree with Jimmy.
Oh yeah, listen. The thing about LSU, man. I mean, LSU has become Mr. Steal Your Coach, and they get them. You get Brian Kelly from Notre Dame. People are like, oh, Kim Mulkey. Let me tell you something. Kim Mulkey, she's the reason why we watching Baylor. I get Brittany Griner. I get all the stuff, but she built a dynasty. You stealing any type of headlines from UConn.
Yeah.
Then you got Don Staley. We see what Don Staley is doing in South Carolina. Kim Mulkey, what she said, what can I do with this press conference? I'm gonna say, listen, man, we gonna win. We're going to win the natty. People are, and I don't like when people say, why would she say that? I ain't coming here to just be all right. I know what, and the thing about it is it's either college, it's either Division I sports or it's not. You start saying, oh, women's college basketball. Look, man, to be I'm legendary. The first ever LSU national championship for the women's against who? Hey, man, look, the thing about the women's national championship, it was star-studded, man. It was. I saw Mulkey with her granddaughter doing the whole, John Cena. The reason why I can appreciate that is the hardest thing for a coach to do is to adjust to the times. When Mulkey started coaching, she didn't know it was going to be social media and all this fanfare, but she knows if I don't show my players that I can, I don't got to understand everything they do to get with what they do, because I need them to go out there and get it done for me. So if all I got to do is wave my hand in front of my granddaughter's face, and I'm going to say this, as a person that trained for the draft in Louisiana, listen, I know people love their sports in other states. They love LSU. Nothing against the Saints. But LSU, if you say who they love more, the Saints or LSU, and it depends on who you ask. Because they love the Tigers. They love the Tigers. And I just think that when I'm watching the national championship, I want the ladies to have their shine, man. I really do. Some of the best players in most of these colleges are the ladies. They just don't get the fanfare. That other, sorry, you don't got a Brittany Griner that's 6'8", 6'9" that can dunk. No, they're gonna be 6'3", 6'4". I love what Ryan Clark is doing, having the young ladies on the pivot, giving them their shot. I like that kind of stuff, because when I was at Florida, you don't think we heard of from other sports? Volleyball, we win the SEC every year. Soccer, we win it? And I get that we pack in stadiums and all these different things, but I'm happy for them LSU women, man. I think it's great. I just came from the Black Sports Media Symposium, and Don Staley was speaking at it, and the first thing she said was, shout out to the LSU Tigers, because while I wanted to be us, I'm happy for them if it's not us, because the thing about it, every young lady in women's college basketball, they pushing the sport forward, and the better they are, the more viewers they get. I was loving it. And as a person that used to talk trash to the women's basketball team when I was in Florida, I'm not going out on the court with them because I'm not finna get embarrassed. I talk trash, Like, y'all can't do nothing. I'm not going out there with them. I'm not getting crossed up.
Well, look, Ben, we know all you tight ends feel like y'all can play hoops. Yeah, we know that, all right?
Listen, but this is the thing, though. This is the thing, though, Jane. This is the thing, though. Like my friends say, the older I get, the better I was. Or the older I get, but I was the truth. But at the same time, I think every great program starts with one thing in common. You got a great coach, man. Any program that wins, look at the coach. And listen,
funny.
Coach Mo, she's a rock star. She knows she is. She has her own Twitter account with her outfits on it. Like, that's all it is. What she wears to the games, but she's getting it done on the court. And now she's telling Don Staley, listen, I know y'all play some great basketball in Columbia, but we got a little something going on in Baton Rouge too.
Look, Rob, you see how we do these places all over these shows. We did shows in Gainesville, back when Steve Spurrier was scheduling LSU as their homecoming. Okay, that's how confident they were going to whoop LSU back then. Okay, and we went and LSU. We thought LSU early DiNardo. They were on the rise, and we're going to be competitive. It was about 40-7 at halftime. We went to the Purple Porpoise to set up for the post game show. Man, they're pouring beer on us left and right. I mean, look, they don't know how to act. And why people, LSU fans, get a little problem with Florida fans because they remind each other they remind themselves of each other. So that's one thing I'm going to miss a little bit. My buddy Jacob Hester, who does the show, the morning show on our station on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. That's the one. We're going to miss Auburn. There's so many storylines that Auburn, with the new schedule structure of the SEC. But Jacob talks about that Florida series. And for that stretch, that sort of 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, that was the best on-field game or on-field series in college football. LSU, Florida won in 06. We thought we were better. Jamarcus Russell had his worst game at the Swamp, okay? And we were sitting there watching. We should have beat these guys. They're killing Ohio State in the national championship game. 07, LSU catches a break with everything that happens on championship Saturday. They get their chance, and they blow out Ohio State. And in 08, Florida comes back again with Tebow. And man, that was the best, back and forth. That was the best series. LSU and Alabama became the best on-field series for a while, so back in the day it was Miami and Florida State, it was Oklahoma and Nebraska, but that series that's been a regular for a while, and we whined about it because Alabama's playing Tennessee, who can't get out their own way for 15-20 years, but we're going to miss those trips to the Swamp, there's no doubt.
Well, we're about to take a break. I will say this, you're right. You talk about there are rivalries in name that the national media will just pounce on. And then there's the rivalries, the best rivalries on the field. And you look at that 07 Florida game, Florida at LSU.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
The 4th downs, yeah.
How about the 97 Florida at LSU when LSU broke that long winning streak, I think that Florida had going forever. But bottom line is you just can't get any better. We're going to be right back. I want to talk more about these new scheduling pods or formats that the SEC is going to. We've got Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal Savannah, Jimmy Ott, the Ottfather, ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, Rob Browne, Sidelines, right back after this. All right, we are back. Let's continue. Jimmy, let's get started on these schedules. I remember in '91, the last time Auburn and Tennessee played on the regular deal before the '92 season, and we've seen other things, but this has been the most significant change. If you're a fan of what's going to happen with some of these regularly played rivalries, and I don't hate anybody. I love my school. I want to beat you. I might say I hate you when we're playing you or the refs or whatever, but I just want to beat you. But I think about that Auburn LSU series, Florida LSU. Are they going to be able to keep that permanent?
No, there's no way. There's no way. No.
That's the one thing that makes me want to just.
No, look, Rob. When they're down to Destin, they don't want to fool around with all kinds of decisions. Okay, this stuff, as we say in South Louisiana, the cat's in the bag and the bag is in the river. Okay, this thing is done. Okay, LSU is permanent, and they're trying to tier it. They're trying to the high resource, high expectation programs: LSU, Bama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia. Well, now it's Tennessee. Because with Tennessee was kind of, are they? Man, they're struggling so long, but man, they got budget, they've got support, they've got some history, but they've underperformed for so years. For 1 year, are we going to put them in a high resource? And they kind of have. So that's the big thing, because Oklahoma and Texas are high resource, high budget, high expectation of programs. The Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Kentucky, South Carolina, Arkansas, no offense, but still, it's kind of split. Just in, a budget and money helps your program. So they can't maintain them. And LSU's 3 are going to be Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Alabama. And the Alabama was not a given, because Alabama's got to play Auburn. Alabama's got to play Tennessee. And Alabama's the one that's going to get it. Okay, wait, we're going to get 2 high expectation, high resource opponents, and the one that's kind of been sitting on the fence that, was low performing, but now they're trying to get the most out of their resources. And they're the ones who benefited because Tennessee was down for so long that, is going to have a tougher road.
Yeah.
Saban's pissed. This just in. Saban likes a loaded deck. Okay. He wants a loaded deck. That's the way he likes to play. But I thought it was interesting that the conference identified the LSU Bama series as one they want to preserve and they want to maintain. Since Saban's gone there, it's been mostly Alabama, but LSU has shown a couple of times that, hey, we still can compete in this thing. And we know it's more cyclical with LSU. Again, Miami's the only other program that's produced national championships with 3 straight coaches. No pressure, Brian Kelly, but the 3 before you got an addict. So that's it. This thing is done, Rob. It's we've seen the things leak out. The best guy to follow is a guy that was on the beat here at LSU I forgot his name, from SI.com. And he's been talking to people, and it seems like it's going to be done as far as who's there. And look, man, growth is a good thing, but growth also, you want to maintain. I like that original 10, man. When we were at 10, man, let's see Ole Miss in Florida and Auburn and Tennessee, and that's the SEC I grew up on, and I just value those series. I remember even going to Jackson, you could see an SEC doubleheader when I was in school. Ole Miss would play Tennessee and we would play Mississippi State. Man, that so we want to play on campus. I agree with that too. Non-conference games on campus, but the SEC, and I think Sankey is doing the right thing of trying to maintain and keep those really special, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, Georgia. I mean, these type of, Florida, Tennessee. That's one that's we're kind of trying to see is going to fall by the wayside. I mean, that was the best on-field series for a stretch, the Spurrier and Fulmer.
Well, it's going to be fun. You think about the tradition, Rich, since 1963. There have only been 6 teams in the SEC that have won the conference: Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU. And then you start thinking about the programs. You're right. Ole Miss is trying to break through that 10-win ceiling because they've never won 11 games during the regular season. But, you look at Florida. Once they won the SEC officially in 91, they really won it in 90. From 89 to 09, Florida won more football games than any other college program in America. 3 national championships, 8 SEC titles, and golly, a Heisman Trophy in 96 with Danny Werfel, in 07 with Tim Tebow. Ben, he just talked about it. As an Auburn, I still hate not playing Florida because Auburn needs to be in Florida for recruiting outside of Georgia. The Athletic did an all-star team a couple of years ago. The all-time Georgia players on the Auburn roster against all-time Alabama high school players. And you had quarterback Cam Newton against quarterback Pat Sullivan. And the running backs for Georgia were like James Brooks, and Ronnie Browne, and William Andrews. You had Kenny Irons. I mean, where do you start? And I'm with Jimmy. You just nailed it. That bag's in the river, but at least we get to play. Hopefully, everybody twice in every cycle. That's what I like. That, Ben. I mean, are you for it?
I am. I think Jimmy make a good point. The thing about it is when Tennessee was down, LSU and the most underrated rivalry is LSU Florida because it got really, really good, really, really fast. I mean, y'all talking about the games. I mean, my last year in Florida was 2003 when Nick Saban got their first national championship with LSU. They only lost 1 game that year, only one, but they still won the natty. And the thing about it is
we forgot to cover you, Ben.
I know, what's crazy? I've never met Marcus Spears in person. Big Marcus Spears wore number 84. I said, man, and number one, I come out there on the field, and I'm like, people, is 84 versus 84? I said, no, the hell it's not. I'm gonna do my best to deal with this dude and get out of his way. But it's something that the coach used to tell us. He goes, you got regional appeal, you got national appeal. Some of these games have national appeal to it. And the thing about Tennessee, as you mentioned, you had one really, really good season in the last 15, 20 years. We not too many years removed. Y'all scratching and clawing to beat Vanderbilt. And they went through a lot of coaches, right? They went through a lot of coaches. The whole world owes Brian Kelly an apology. Leaves Notre Dame and back in the SEC championship game, his first year in the SEC. Because LSU, to me, has always been that team to where, look, man, you give them the right squad, they're going to be hard to deal with. Because people talk about the state of Florida. They recruit the state of Florida. You got some really, really good players in Louisiana. You don't believe me? Remember Reggie Wayne and remember a guy named Ed Reed? They are not from Florida. They are from the boot. But Miami went and snatched them boys. So I know that when you start talking about the wild cards in this 3-5, it's going to be Oklahoma, Texas, because they have national appeal. I don't care what Texas is not doing. Who's going to be the teams in this current crop of teams? They got to deal with them. Because do I think Oklahoma and Texas are going to run through the SEC? No, I don't. But they ain't going to lack recruiting. I mean, everybody thought that Arch Manning was going to go to a team already in the SEC, not a team that's coming to the SEC. But he goes, I want my own legacy, man. I'm not going to Ole Miss where my grandfather and uncle went. I'm not going to Tennessee. I think when you think about this 3-3-5, it comes down to programming. And what people hate about the SEC is they got some of the best games. Once they get in the schedule, they got some of the best games week in and week out. Ole Miss is winning 10 games now. They're not going to win the West, but the fact that Lane Kiffin is saying, look, man, I want to put pressure on Nick Saban and company every single year. They're not going to beat them. Going to be some really, really good games. So, yeah, I do think the Florida Tennessees, it might be gone. Only because a blind taste test is going to say, well, Tennessee has won the game 2 times out of 15 years. That's not something that I think the world wants to see. And I do think that when you think about the LSU and the Alabama, I do think you keep them together. I think Florida, Georgia tied to the hip. You're not going to get away from them. The eyeballs out are going to be the Vanderbilts, the South Carolinas, the Kentucky. Who are you going to put in those pods? Because if it was up to Nick Saban, he would have Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee. That would be his pod every year. And he'll be like, what? But I do think that I don't think you're going to see undefeated SEC schedules anymore. I don't think you're going to see that. But I think a 2-loss regular SEC champion is still going to be better than an ACC or Big 10, Big 12.
Uh-oh.
But I do agree, Jimmy. The games are going to get better because now,
Yeah,
when you talk about recruiting, and I know most of these schools are going to be able to get players saying, "Look, man, I know Alabama and Georgia are going to decide who they want, and everybody and LSU, and after that, you can pick whoever else is left." But
yeah.
I do think that Greg Sankey is the most powerful man in college sports right now. He knows it, and fortunately for the ACCs and the other conferences of the world, they're going to have good teams. But TCU is a very, 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 very humbling reminder of everybody wants to play SEC schools. Everybody wants to do it. Can you beat them in the regular season? Yes. Can you beat them in a neutral site? Yeah. But when everybody's watching, man, they turn on a switch because they know the best marketing there is on the field talent. And look at it. Watch the draft this year. Because, like I said, I mean, when I was in Florida and we talk about some of these great players that's coming through these schools, the SEC been doing it. I'm looking forward to it. Billy Napier, and I'm praying for him because, my God, these teams are only getting better and better and better. And you got to have a head coach. You got to have a quarterback. When it comes to the SEC, if you don't got both together, I was in Oakland when they had Jamarcus Russell, man. I tell you all the time, if Jamarcus Russell don't get drafted by the Raiders, he plays a long time. He plays a long time.
Yeah, maybe so.
But the thing is, you know who his head coach was? Lane Kiffin, because I was out there. It was a train wreck when I was out. You know who the running back was? Darren McFadden. So let me get this straight. Darren McFadden's the running back. Jamarcus Russell, you know who the cornerbacks was? Nnamdi Asomugha and D'Angelo Hall. They were stacked. Problem is, we in Oakland, where they had rotten freaking fruit on the floor and say, "Hey man, just eat them apples." No, bro, I'm not Will Levis. I don't eat rotten bananas and I don't put mayonnaise in my coffee. I'm from the South, man, to where we got real fruits and vegetables that we can eat. But I just know that one day I hope to be able to sit down with some of these former players because unfortunately, people say Jamarcus Russell, he's one of the worst players ever came. I said, I don't believe that. I said, if Drew Brees get drafted by the Cleveland Browns, how good of a player does he become? Where you go in the NFL has a lot to do with what you become as a player. And I just think that LSU used to get on my nerves because them boys, they were stacked, man. Like they were stacked every single year. And they're looking for a Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, chasing those boys. I don't know where they rank all time. There ain't a defense alive would have want to deal with them boys. There ain't a defense on the planet. The Biletnikoff winner had 2 more touchdowns than the guy he beat out. Jefferson had like 18. All I'm saying is, man, shout out to them LSU boys. I was down there for 3 months getting ready for the draft. Some of the most loving, welcoming people. The thing about LSU fans or Louisiana fans are like New York fans. If you ain't good at your sport, they going to tell you. They don't mince words. They're going to be like, what's your name? Oh, yeah, that's the one that can't catch. Oh, that's the one that they just knew it. That was back in 2004, so I can only imagine how they are these days.
No doubt, no doubt. And that Oakland facility, man, they had to move the visiting broadcast team for the A's in that facility because they had a possum, in a family of possums in the damn. I mean, it's just that thing is a joke, man. Dead rats in the Coke machine, in Oakland. So. I mean, it's just a matter of time before they get that organization out of there as well. And Jamarcus, I've never seen a guy who could spin it like he could. Jamarcus didn't help himself either. His work ethic, study ethic, I mean, it's this, Ben, the most talented ones are the hardest to motivate. And Saban tried to play Marcus Randall, play in front, tried to motivate him as best he could. And so. But there's nobody that could spin it naturally like him. I mean, he was something else. That's just, he's a bust. He's a big time bust, one of the biggest busts in the history of the league. But the organization, when we said that we had a draft party, we're like, is this the best thing for Jamarcus? No, we didn't know it was going to end like that. Mm-hmm. But we had our concerns, going to that organization that was so poorly run at that time.
Yeah, and I just listened to the litany of players that you ran off, Ben, with the Raiders. And that does happen a lot. You have a loaded roster, and it's just not the right organization. And, God, Cleveland is one of the great burial grounds for NFL talent. And there are other organizations like that. When you see a guy drafted there, Jimmy's right. Oh, this is exciting. He's going to get a lot of money. but he's going to an organization where his career probably won't be nearly as long and successful as it would be if he's
Rob,
in the right organization.
let me ask Ben this one thing. And, you know, is Florida as an administration finally committed to like facilities? Because Florida, to me, was the best job in the country for a while because you have the most NFL players in that state playing high school football.
Mm-hmm.
You're the only one in that state that can sell the brand of the SEC. Enough said. We know about that. But this facility was lacking and falling behind in the arms race. And when Clemson is out, out committing themselves, are they getting it to where a point where they can, give the quality of those 3 or 4 years to their student athletes like the Alabamas, LSUs, and other places?
I think they are now, yes. And that started, and not to give him, that started with Jim McElwain, who brought in an indoor facility. Because for all these years, they didn't have one. And then Billy Napier obviously benefited from this all football facility, like an $85 million football facility. And as much as I didn't know how much facilities were such a selling point, them players in recruiting, they going around saying, well, Alabama has this, Tennessee has that, and LSU has that. You notice every time when LSU unveiled their new locker room, so did Florida. Problem was, it was at the old facilities, but yeah, it's all about facilities.
Hey, we're about to take a break and go to Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, and Ben, if you can hang on, I know do it. And Jimmy, I know you've got to get on to another show. Let people know, Jimmy, how they can follow you and keep up with your great work. By the way, been one of the best segments. I'm telling you what, take notes, people. When these guys are on, you're in class. But how can they follow you, Jimmy?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at JimmyOtt1045. Also, Sports Bettor's Paradise is our podcast, our sports gambling podcast. I've got some of the best handicappers from around the country about 3 or 4 times a week. Again, you can follow that wherever you find your podcast, and listen to us online at 1045ESPN.com. Don't worry, Ben, you ain't too big for me to put my hip on you, back you down at that low post. I don't care.
Listen, if I come to the court and I see Jimmy, I'm coming up with an intro like, nah, bro, I can't even do it today, man. My hip not locked up on me.
Jimmy, we're going to get you back on too with our friend Dave Tompkins. You used to be the CEO up at Churchill Downs. Talk about the Derby before it comes up here. Thanks so much. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Browne back here with Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal over in Savannah, Georgia. And great stuff with Jimmy Ott, as always, down in Baton Rouge. And let's bring in our great man, our friend. He's back with us, Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider. 27 years now, only $48 a year. Rodney, this is brought to you by the May Veterinary Clinic. Tighter Insider Report. May Veterinary Clinic, established in 1964 in Tuscaloosa. 2 locations, Tuscaloosa and Northport, open every day. Sundays, drop off only between 3 and 5 in the afternoon. May Veterinary Clinic has the doggy daycare, even have connecting cat condos for cats that live in the same home. May Veterinary Clinic, top-notch veterinary care. No matter where you live, you can go to May Veterinary Clinic, Tuscaloosa and Northport. And Rodney, Waller put some interesting stuff on here this morning. I said, I bet Rodney would be interested in this. Alabama 1964 national championship roster and coaches. Interesting to see all of the future head coaches on that team. And 64, of course, the same year, May Veterinary Clinic was opened by Dr. Wayne May. Tuscaloosa, of course, known for traditions continuing to this day. Interesting enough, 1964 and 65 saw the birth of Waller and Guy, as well as national championships for Alabama. Thought it might be interesting stuff for our man Rodney Orr, Tider Insider. And Rodney, nothing going on down there in Tuscaloosa. Y'all just won the SEC and the number 1 overall seed in the basketball tournament. You got football, baseball going on. But right now, let's get your takeaways up to this point on spring practice, what's going on, the quarterback battle that's going on, and as only Rodney Orr can tell us. Can Ben hear? Well, Ben Troupe and I have been talking, and Ben, of course, played at Florida. And Ben, you can hear me, correct?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And Ben and I are talking a lot about what's going on in the SEC and looking at these. Everybody's fighting for finding a quarterback. It's a hard position to find that, and left tackles and tight ends and what have you. But Rodney, Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson. I mean, these are big-time quarterback prospects. And Milroe's fast. He's so athletic. I don't have as much time watching Ty Simpson, of course, who really does get to go to practice or anything like that. But of these two, which one do you think is most likely to lead Alabama into the college football playoff, which is the standard? Call Ben and tell him we'll just bring him back on later in the week. Well, is it fair? And I think it was maybe you'd have to go back to the 2016 season when Jalen Hurts came in, oh golly, it must have been January of 2016, and he was the starter for 16 and 17 until obviously Tua came into the Georgia game in the second half. But it's been a while since Alabama knew for sure who it was going to be at quarterback. But it's a healthy competition. I mean, whoever it is looks like he's a hell of a quarterback. But do you think Nick Saban's looking at the portal? I mean, I'm sure he loves winning, and that's always got to be a possibility, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Well, of this team coming back, I mean, Alabama last year, 11-2. They'll be right up there. They had a great recruiting class. It was number one class in the country. What are you looking for defensively? Kevin Steele, this is his third time to be on the staff with Nick Saban. I think he's a hell of a defensive coordinator. And Pete Golding is now over at Ole Miss after 4 years at Alabama. And, the expectations aren't going to change. What do you think this team's going to look like of, say, the last 5 or 10 years of Alabama squads that you've watched? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Can you hear Rodney?
Can no one else hear?
I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, and I've always just watched him as a recruiter. He knows how to develop players, and you're exactly right. Any coach, if you've got good players, you should win. But he always wins when he has players, and he always has players, and he's going to have them at Alabama. Rodney, a couple of years ago on the show going into the 21 season, we talked about that really highly rated offensive line class Alabama brought in. And you and I both know that's just a tough position to develop. Throw in the portal where if a guy's pillow's not soft enough or the mattress is too hard, he may bolt after a tough couple of days of practice on you. How many of those guys from that class are still there contributing at Alabama? And that's not, it's not a unusual, for some of them to leave anyway, but that was a hell of a class. But with the portal, you can find players. Yeah. 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 No, nobody does. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yes. Yes. Well, it's such a hard position to find players too, because I think all these 7-on-7 camps, Rodney, are everybody wants to be a wide receiver or a skill player. If you don't have offensive linemen, you're dead in the water. But if you do, you can beat everybody that you play. Looking at defense, you're losing some players, guys like Will Anderson, and is Dallas Turner? Is he back? Okay. Yeah, I was wondering what his situation was. But you've always got players. Who are some of the guys that you're hearing are having good springs? Because I know Saturday is going to be Alabama's inter-squad A-Day game. Yeah, again. Yeah. 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 Oh, yeah. 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 Oh, yeah. 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 It is. And Rodney, we've run out of time. We're going to get you back on. Let's get you back on next week, talk more about this, because you're right. The fans, they have their standards, and it makes it fun. Let people know how they can follow you and keep up with you. We'll have you on longer next week. This is the May Veterinary Clinic, Tuscaloosa and Northport. Rodney Orr, Tyler Insider Report. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much as always. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, folks. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world, and free speech, the First Amendment, is protected, revered, and alive and well here on Sidelines 6 days a week. Till then, have a great day. We are out of here.